Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, welcome back. We are back on the record, State of Ohio versus Lindsay Partin. You folks have any issues with the admonitions that need to come to my attention? Very good, excellent. When last we left, we were getting ready to begin the redirect by the state. Is the state ready to proceed accordingly?
Yes.
All right, you may do so whenever.
Jason, you were asked about some GoFundMes that you'd set up.
Yes, ma'am.
If I may approach with State's Exhibits 152, 153, 154, and 155. Can you approach, please?
Ms. Holly, again, just so my record keeping is clear, we're talking about 152 through 155, right?
That's correct.
All right. You may proceed according to our sidewalk rules.
If I may approach the witness.
Yeah, you may.
Go ahead and take a look at those. All right, are you able to recognize those?
Yes, ma'am.
What are those?
These are my GoFundMe pages I had.
Are those true and accurate depictions of what you would see when you pull up the GoFundMe page related to those?
Yes, ma'am.
And are those GoFundMe pages that you created?
Yes, ma'am.
Move to admit and publish?
Yes.
Already heard.
Noting a prior objection, overrule this highly dedicated and published.
If I may approach the witness to take back the exhibits.
You may.
All right, State's Exhibit 152. What is that exhibit and what was that page?
That is Hannah with a GoFundMe. She wasn't hurt. It's when we were living in the house.
All right. You described under there the reasons why you were looking for assistance with GoFundMe?
It was rough with just me and Hannah. Trying to do it by myself with my other girls, it was rough. So I was trying to get help.
Did you ever get any money from that?
No, ma'am.
State's Exhibit 153. What is that?
That is Hannah when she was in the hospital bed at Children's Hospital in ICU.
And tell me why you set up that GoFundMe.
For medical expenses. At this time, we knew that she wasn't going to survive, and funeral expenses.
And it says here, I don't know when this was printed, 7,245 of your goal. I don't know if that's supposed to be 250,000 or 250 million.
I just put it, I didn't set a limit, I think I just put it to the max.
Okay. So did you get more than that 7,245?
Yes, I got right around $10,000.
And what did you do with that fund?
I spent it on funeral costs.
Specifically what?
The services in Kentucky were about $9,000. We had a service in Ohio. Her headstone was about $4,000, a little over $4,000. And that's where it went. I mean, it didn't cover all the expenses, but it covered whatever it covered. I mean, it all went to the medical.
State's Exhibit 154. What is that?
That is a picture of me and some of my directors and my children at a benefit in Fairfield.
And what was that benefit? What was the purpose of that benefit?
That benefit was not ours. That was for Fire and Iron. It was a firehouse that they had a motorcycle group as well, and they rode for children.
Is this, I know it has that picture there, is this also the cover for another GoFundMe page? Looks like it says Hannah Strong.
Hannah Strong is the name of my nonprofit corporation, and that is my main photo of our nonprofit corporation.
All right. And here it says, I think, $1,600 of $100,000 goal raised by 7 people in 6 months.
Yes.
And what was that used towards?
Various different things to organization. I have all my receipts for everything. It was, I can't say specifically what each dollar was spent for, but it all went on the organization.
Did you have a fundraiser separate from this GoFundMe?
The fundraiser for the camp, but not on GoFundMe, not another fundraiser on GoFundMe.
Okay. So did you have and I guess what I'm asking is, did you have a fundraiser outside of GoFundMe?
Yes.
Tell me about that.
It was a bike run in September with some bands. It didn't go real well. Lost quite a bit of money on that.
And when you say lost quite a bit of money, what do you mean?
Because I paid bands and sound guys. We had a bunch of food. I had stuff set up at Houston Woods. We paid for a spot there for the day. And it just got cold. It rained. Nobody showed up.
So
Not very many people showed up.
Did you make any money off of that?
Very little. I think there was 12 motorcycles, maybe 13. It was $25 to ride. And then at the benefit, we didn't really make any money.
Did you make enough money to cover the costs of the event?
No.
And State Exhibit 155. All right, I think that should be clear now. And what is that?
That is a GoFundMe for a program that we want to start in our organization called Camp Hannah for children of neglect and abuse for a summer camp type thing.
And it looks like there's a $785,000 goal, and it says no donations yet.
No, there was no donations.
Have you ever had any donations to that?
No.
You were asked about a lawsuit.
Yes, ma'am.
Why are you filing the lawsuit?
The medical bills are substantial. I probably have $3 million in medical bills, ballpark, give or take,
And medical bills related to what?
to Hannah from the hospitals.
So you have been billed for the care that Hannah received while in the hospital for those 6 days?
Yes, ma'am. I got a helicopter bill. It was about $30-something thousand, and then they just trickle in.
Jason, did you cooperate with every request made to you by detectives?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you ever refuse to do anything that they asked you to do?
No, ma'am.
You were asked about headaches that Hannah had described.
Yes, ma'am.
Could you tell me about those?
She would just point at her head and say it hurts, and she wanted me to kiss it. And after I kissed it, she was fine. She'd always point at herself, say she has a boo-boo. She wanted me to kiss her boo-boos. And she would just point and say my head hurts, and I'd kiss it, and she'd run off and play. She was fine.
And you told detectives about that?
Yes, ma'am.
Why'd you tell detectives about that?
I don't know. They may have asked. I don't know exactly how it came up. But I know I did tell them that.
And I know you said Hannah's birth date was 1/11 of 2015.
Yes, ma'am.
That would have made her about 3 years and 2 months
Yes, ma'am.
as of March 8th.
Yes.
You were asked about things Hannah said about where she got her injuries. Did Hannah ever tell you that Lindsay hit her?
There was one time she said that she hit her, but it was kind of in between. If she would fall or fall off a chair, she would say, "Sissy hit me," or such and such, because she didn't want to get in trouble for doing something she wasn't supposed to do.
And did she get in trouble that day for telling you that Lindsay hit her?
No. We had our talks about lying and stuff, but she didn't get in trouble.
Did you ever believe that Lindsay would have hurt Hannah?
No.
And you were asked about telling Lindsay that you thought it was an aneurysm.
Yes,
correct?
ma'am.
And that would have been while at Cincinnati Children's Hospital on March 8th in the evening?
Yes, ma'am. I may have said that at the Fort Hamilton Hospital as well, because the EMS told me it looked like she had blood on her brain, and that's the first thing that came to my mind was an aneurysm.
When you told Lindsay that, did she say, "Well, Jason, I've been sitting with the detectives for 4 hours today and they told me she was abused"?
No.
She didn't say that to you?
No.
You spent a lot of time, I believe, on cross-examination trying to guess timeframes.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
about how long it takes you to get somewhere.
Yes, ma'am.
You ever taken a stopwatch and timed yourself to do that?
No, ma'am.
Well, how do you determine that time?
I was guessing. I can't say for sure on specific seconds.
Do you have any reason to disagree with what the phone records say regarding timing of texts and timing of calls?
No, ma'am.
Do you have Defense Exhibit QQ there in front of you?
No,
Do you have
ma'am.
it?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Your exhibit? Or Ms. Howard, I'm sorry. It's your exhibit?
Yeah.
QQ?
Was it
So you don't
admitted?
have that? No, it wasn't admitted. You were using QQ.
Oh.
I mean, I have one I can use, but I just thought
Oh,
it'd be easier if I
it's
used
this.
yours.
I don't know.
I understand. Actually, I think I'm going to use State's Exhibit 155. I may have messed up your numbers unless you didn't use this one. Okay. State's Exhibit 155.
Very easily,
156. You were asked about meeting with detectives initially at Fort Hamilton Hospital.
Yes, ma'am.
You recall doing that?
Yes, ma'am.
And you recall that that was recorded?
Yes, ma'am.
You recall talking to them about that morning and some of that evening prior?
Yes, ma'am.
As you sit here today, do you have specific recollection about what you told them about where you were when you got the call from Lindsay?
I was at my truck. Is exactly where I was at.
If I may approach the witness with State's Exhibit 156.
Objection.
Yeah, let's approach.
Jason, go ahead and look through that. specifically direct your attention to page 5 of that. And if you can find in there if it says where you were when you got the call from Lindsay.
Yes, ma'am.
And what does it say?
I was at my work truck.
Could you go ahead and read that, those actually 4 lines beginning at 7 through 10 about what that says?
I said, and our work is out there, our shop is out there. So I went down to the shop to pick up my truck, and as soon as I started my truck, I got the phone call. So I went right back up to Lindsay's.
Jason, you've been aware you've been under an order from the court not to have contact with anybody about what's going on in the courtroom?
Yes, ma'am.
And have you followed that?
Yes, ma'am.
And that's been throughout the entire trial?
Yes, ma'am.
And nothing further?
Thank you, Ms. Hiley. Ms. Howard, you may recross whenever you're ready.
Jason, you'd agree with me that at Children's Hospital, you made an application for Medicaid coverage for him, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And you recall that specifically?
Yes, ma'am.
And you would agree with me that the transcript that Ms. Hiley just handed you, 156, from your conversation and interview at Fort Hamilton Hospital, is also the same time that you told the detectives that you went to Walmart for milk, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Page 3.
Yes, ma'am.
And on page 4, it's also the same transcript and conversation you had with the detectives, where you said that Hannah had cereal that morning, a bowl of cereal. She went in and brushed her teeth, she brushed her hair, and then she went into her room and got her coat, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And it's also the same conversation you had with the detectives at the hospital, where you said Hannah played in her room for 10 minutes. Do you remember that?
I don't remember that, ma'am.
Let me direct your attention to page 3. And once you got home, did Hannah say anything to you? You said no. You were asked, what did you do? And your answer was, she played in her room for about 10 minutes, and then she came and laid on the couch with me and watched TV until she fell asleep. Do you remember that?
Yes, ma'am.
And in that same page is where the Walmart and a gallon of milk is written, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And that you all were home from Walmart at 7:30. Do you remember that?
Yes, ma'am.
And that's not true, correct?
No, ma'am.
Ms. Hiley asked you, have you cooperated with every request made to you by the detectives, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Is the fact that you told them about Chris Davis on Monday of this week cooperating with the detectives?
No, ma'am. I did my best to cooperate. I did not tell them about Chris. No, ma'am.
And of the photographs that Ms. Hiley has shown you for your GoFundMe pages, is Chris Davis in any of those photographs?
No, ma'am.
Did Chris Davis make any comments on any of those pages?
No, ma'am. He does not have Facebook. He doesn't use the internet like that.
Those are GoFundMe pages, though. They're not Facebook, correct?
Yes, ma'am. He doesn't get on the internet like that.
And I apologize for this. I want to make sure I got the timeline correct. Chris Davis, you told Detective Turner about this Monday, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So yesterday,
Yes, ma'am.
April 8th.
April 8th.
Today's, if I told you today is April 9th, a
Yes, ma'am.
Tuesday,
Yes, ma'am.
it would have been yesterday.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you know about what time you told him that?
It was in the morning. We didn't really have a conversation about it. I told him that I figured out where I went, and then that was pretty much the end of it. He didn't want to know anything else. He said he talked to Kelly, and then
You didn't want to know anything else?
we went on.
No further questions, thank you.
All right, sir, you may step down. Watch your step. And please do not discuss testimony with any other potential witnesses. State, who's next?
Your Honor, I just want to state for the record that Mr. Weshy is subject to recall, so I believe he's stepping out. Your Honor, this time we would call Detective Joe Ventry. Can we have a sidebar just briefly?
Sure. Detective, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Your Honor.
Before we get started, we do have cameras here. Do you object to them potentially using your face on the news?
No, sir.
Excellent. Machine, you be doing the direct.
Yes, Your Honor.
You may proceed whenever you're ready.
I'm just trying to locate the exhibit that we
No, take time.
used.
There's one here. Is this what you're looking for?
Is it up there? Is that it? These two right here. Oh, that's one of them. Thank you. Where's the other one? Thank you. Sir, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Can you please state your name for the record?
Detective Joe Ventry.
And what's your current occupation, sir?
I'm a detective with the Butler County Sheriff's Office.
How long have you been a detective at the sheriff's office?
Been a detective for a little over 4 years.
And what are your current duties?
Criminal Investigations Division.
I want to focus specifically on cell phone analysis. Do you have any experience in training in cell phone analysis?
Yes.
Can you please describe that training that you have for that?
Yes, I received training and certification through Cellbrite. Cellbrite is a company that specializes in cell phones forensics and provides training to law enforcement. The training was mobile forensic fundamentals, certified logical operator, and a certified physical analyst. And this training was through the Cellbrite programs, equipment, and tools.
Okay, so you went through a lot of different mobile fundamentals, things like that. So
Yes.
specifically, just if you could dumb it down a little bit.
Okay.
Explain what that is.
Is basically learning how to do forensic analysis on cell phones through, the lack of a better term, the term they use is a phone dump through their systems.
You completed that training. Do you remember approximately when?
Two of the classes, which was the certified logical operator and certified physical analyst, was September of 2015. The mobile forensic fundamental was December of 16, I believe.
And is that a training that you would have to, for lack of a better term, re-up on or recertify, or is it just you
Yes,
have that
there's a
information?
recertification.
I'm sorry, I was talking over you.
I'm sorry. Yeah, there is a recertification.
And how often is that completed?
I'm not sure. I believe it's every few years.
Can you please describe for the ladies and gentlemen of the jury the process for this cell phone analysis? Is this something that you would use a program for, or you manually remove?
Yeah, you use the Cellbrite programs. With that, you would hook the phone up to the computer or one of the other Cellbrite machines, and using their cables that they provide for you, and it does an extraction of the cell phone.
Are you limited on what cell phones you can use? iPhones? I don't know any others, unfortunately, but are you limited in what you can use, or is it capable with all cell phone types?
It's capable with all cell phone types.
When you do this process of this cell phone analysis using the Cellbrite program, while it's downloading, is that program changing any of the information on the phone?
No.
Would it change any dates or messages, content, anything like that?
No.
So is it safe to say that it just downloads it verbatim?
Right.
Sir, can this program, this Cellbrite program, can it recover text messages, call history prior to the date that you would download it?
Yes.
Can the program have the capability to recover items that have maybe been deleted?
Yes, it does.
Does this generate, once you do this download, does it generate a report from that?
Yes.
Would that phone report indicate which items had been deleted or which items had attempted to be deleted? Explain that process.
Yes. Once the report is written, it would have a column if something was deleted. It has a deleted column, and it will show you if a certain item had been deleted.
Your Honor, permission to approach the witness for State's Exhibit 124.
You may approach.
Sir, I'm handing you what's been previously marked and admitted as State's Exhibit 124. Can you please take a look at that? Do you recognize State's Exhibit 124?
Yes.
And how do you recognize that?
Being the defendant's cell phone that I used did the extraction on.
Is that, strike that, is that cell phone, have you previously viewed that cell phone?
Yes.
How many times?
I can't say for sure how many times during the download process and when we reviewed a couple weeks ago.
On the bag, the brown paper bag that it came on, do your initials appear anywhere or your name appear anywhere on that bag?
Yes.
And when would you have affixed your initials to that brown paper bag?
It was on 3/28.
And why did you review it on 3/28?
We were reviewing the case.
Your Honor, at this time, I would seek to, I'm sorry, it's already been admitted, State's Exhibit 124, I apologize.
Yes.
You indicate that that cell phone that you have right there, the defendant's cell phone, that's the exact phone that you conducted a forensic analysis on?
Yes.
All right. Were you then able to successfully conduct a cell phone analysis on that phone?
Yes.
Were you able to successfully generate a report then from that download?
Yes.
So what information is contained in that report?
In the report, it will have device information, contacts, phone calls, text messages, searched items.
Your Honor, permission to approach the witness after showing counsel State's Exhibit 125.
You may.
Sir, I'm handing you what's been marked State's Exhibit 125. Please take a look at that exhibit. Do you recognize what I've handed you?
Yes.
And how do you recognize that exhibit?
This will be the phone load that the report was written and the download was made from the extraction.
And specifically, which phone would this have been a download of?
The defendant's phone, the phone that we just reviewed.
Did you review State's Exhibit 125?
Yes.
And did you initial, do your initials appear anywhere on that
Yes.
CD? After you reviewed it, can you safely say that that's a true and accurate copy of the report generated from downloading the defendant's cell phone?
Yes.
Does the report that you received from this phone, does that give any sort of summary, identifying the phone, identifying when you did the download, any identifying information?
Yes.
All right, and did that do so here?
Yes.
Your Honor, permission to approach the witness?
You may.
Sir, I'm handing you, it's been marked States Exhibit 126.
Yes.
Do you recognize States 126?
Yes.
And what is that?
That's a summary device, a summary source of device information from the extraction.
All right, a lot of words. What does that mean?
It gives a summary of what happened, basically. When the report was written from the actual download, it will tell you when the extraction started, when the extraction was over, gives you device information from the phone, phone numbers, any Apple ID that is associated with the phone, just basic information about the device and what occurred.
Have you had an opportunity to review States Exhibit 126 before today?
Yes.
And were you able to verify that that is an excerpt, that summary is an excerpt that was pulled from the full download of defendant's phone?
Yes.
And is that States Exhibit 126 a true and accurate copy of the summary pulled from defendant's phone, which we determine is States Exhibit 125? 124? I'm sorry, from the cell phone download.
Yes.
You indicated that there was an Apple ID associated with that. What is that?
It is a email address.
Is there also a phone number that's associated with that phone download?
There is.
And what is that phone number?
It's 513-884-5354.
And what about the Apple ID email address?
Lindsay_Partin@yahoo.com.
Does that report indicate any sort of time zone?
Yes.
And what is that time zone?
It's UTC, which stands for Coordinated Universal Time.
So it's a UTC, and then is there any number after the UTC? Kind of explain that.
Yes. UTC is basically a timestamp that the program uses because all the different time zones. So UTC would always be UTC +0 if it hasn't been converted. And for Eastern Standard Time, we would have to subtract 5. So it would be UTC -5 to give us the time for the Eastern Standard Time Zone.
And Eastern Standard Time Zone, is that this area's, Butler County's time zone?
Yes.
And does that report indicate then what UTC time zone was used?
Yes.
And what is that?
It says UTC -5, which would be our time zone. It says New York, America.
And sir, in 2018, are you aware when daylight savings time would have been?
Yes, it would have been on March 11th.
So fair to say that daylight savings time would have been after March 8th, 2018, the events in question here?
Yes.
Do you know if the phone has the capability to recognize a time change for daylight savings?
Yes, it reads it in UTC -4 because of the time change after the daylight savings time.
And how were you able to verify on the defendant's phone that it recognized the time change after March 11th?
Because after March 11th, the phone received some information, still received information into it, and then it changed it to UTC -4 because of the time change.
So as it stands, the date and time stamps on those phones are accurate to reflect Eastern Standard Time?
Yes.
When talking about this cell phone download and the report then it generates, does it also generate a call log of incoming and outgoing calls?
Yes, it does.
And did it do so here?
Yes.
Permission to approach the witness?
You may.
Sir, I'm handing you, it's been marked States Exhibit 127.
Yes.
Can you go ahead and take a look at that? Do you recognize State's Exhibit 127?
Yes.
And what is that?
It's the call log, part of the call log section from the report that was generated from the download.
Did you have the ability or chance to review State's Exhibit 127?
Yes.
And do your initials appear on that document?
Yes, it does.
Specifically, what is the date range that State's Exhibit 127 reflects?
March 6th, 2018 through March 9th of 2018.
And sir, when you placed your initials there, did you verify that this is an excerpt pulled from the full download of defendant's cell phone?
Yes.
And is that then a true and accurate copy of the call log pulled from defendant's phone download?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time I would seek to admit State's Exhibit 126 and 127 and publish.
Defense?
No objection.
All right, 126, 127 will be admitted. You may publish. Have a vote.
So going back a little, I apologize, it's a little blurry. So this would have been the summary that we talked about, State's Exhibit 126.
Yes.
Ms. Sheehan, hold on. We have a juror with a hand. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Just in those, if you would be able to enlarge them a little bit, because I had difficulty reading it.
Whoa, it's still going, I'm sorry. Finicky machine. So sir, just briefly, I don't know if there's a way to... Jamie, I'm hitting focus, it's not doing anything. Do you have any suggestions? There we go. All right, thank you. So, sir, State's Exhibit 126, the extraction report that you were referencing,
Yes.
and it shows your name,
Yes.
the date that you would have done the extraction.
That is the report date,
Okay.
the date that the report was written.
Oh, I see, yes. The extraction date and time were down here?
Yes.
Okay. And then it provides device information,
Yes.
including, I think you indicated an Apple ID and a phone number.
Yes.
And lastly, at the top, the UTC -5 that you referenced.
Yes, that means it already changed it to the Eastern Standard Time zone.
And sir, State's Exhibit 127. And you indicated this would have been the call log from, I want to make sure I get your words correctly, March 6, 2018 through March 9th of 2018.
Yes.
And then it just shows incoming and outgoing missed calls.
Yes.
I'm going to zoom out just a bit so we can take a look at this document in a little bit more entirety. State's Exhibit 127, but I'm going to move it up. And so we see a few, try to refocus it again. Okay. We see a few columns
Yes.
or rows in this. Can you please help us interpret what we're viewing?
Yes, type would be whether it was a missed call or incoming call or outgoing call. The parties would be who it's from or who it was going to, what direction the phone call was going. Timestamp would have been the date and the time. The duration would be how long the call lasted.
And then the outgoing calls, are those calls that would have been placed by defendant's phone?
Yes,
And so then the incoming calls then are, is that safe to say, calls that are then coming into defendant's phone?
yes,
So additionally, is that report that we've talked about, that general phone download report, also capable of capturing a phone's search history?
yes,
And did it do so here?
yes, it did.
Your Honor, permission to approach the witness?
You may.
Sir, I'm handing you, it's been marked State's Exhibit 129. Can you please take a look at that?
Yes,
Do you recognize State's Exhibit 129?
yes.
And what is that?
It's a portion of the search history from the defendant's phone from the download.
And you said it's a portion, specifically what date range is shown there?
February 28th, 2018 through March 8th of 2018.
And as far as what content is viewable, which dates are we looking at?
It is March 7th, 2018 through March 8th of 2018.
And have you had a chance to see and review that document?
Yes,
All right, do your initials appear on that document?
yes,
Were you able to verify that this is an excerpt pulled from the full download on defendant's phone?
yes.
And would it be a true and accurate copy of the search items pulled from defendant's phone
Yeah.
download?
Yes,
All right, at this time seek to admit and publish State's Exhibit 129.
Ms. Howard?
No objection.
129 will be admitted.
Permission to approach the witness.
You may.
State's Exhibit 129, sir.
yes.
And it appears that there are some columns and rows in this as well. Can you please walk us through what these columns and rows are?
Yes, the timestamp would be the date and time that it was searched. The source would be the search engine that was used. The value would be the item that was typed in to be searched. And then the last, it says deleted, will, if there's a yes, would, is telling you that that item was deleted from the search history.
And you indicated that the value is something that would have been a search topic. What does it mean to search something?
To physically type in the whole description, or as it pulled up, partial of it, click on that portion.
So either typing in something, or if it gives you a, I think when you were saying, or if it pulls up, so when it starts finishing the sentence for you?
Yes,
Okay, and then actually clicking on that.
yes,
And sir, are these then searches that would have been coming from the defendant's phone?
yes.
And how do we know that?
Because it was from the download of the search history items, it was the items that the defendant searched on that phone.
And what does it mean to delete something, sir?
But physically go into, in this case, the search history or internet history, and physically delete the item.
And sir, can a report from the phone download combine all of the phone's contents? So calls, texts, what else? Searches, so it can be viewed together in a chronological date order?
Yes,
All right, and did it do so here?
it did.
Permission to approach the witness.
You may.
The State's Exhibit 128. Sir, I'm handing you, it's been marked State's Exhibit 128. Go ahead and take a look at that. And do you recognize State's Exhibit 128?
Yes.
And how do you recognize that?
It is a timeline portion, part of the timeline that was pulled from the download of the phone on the report.
And have you had an opportunity to review State's Exhibit 128?
Yes,
And do your initials appear on that document?
Yes, they do.
What date range are we looking at here in this document?
It looks like March 5th, 2018 through March 8th, 2018.
Can you verify that this is an excerpt pulled from the full download?
Yes,
Is that a true and accurate copy of the phone timeline that was pulled from defendant's phone download?
yes.
Your Honor, at this time, seek to admit and publish State's Exhibit 128.
Ms. Howard?
No objection.
Well, as long as you be admitted, you may publish whenever, which.
Thank you. Permission to approach the witness to retrieve the exhibit? So we're looking at State's Exhibit 128.
Yes.
It looks like it's kind of a blank page, so we'll just move to the second page too. Actually. We'll do this in tandem. So we see some more columns and rows.
Yes.
Can you please describe what we're seeing here?
So type would be what it was, whether it's like a calendar entry, incoming call, outgoing call, text message. Direction would be incoming or outgoing call. Attachments would be like if something was attached, being sent. Location would be like if there was a GPS coordinates attached to it, or if there was like a location in, like, say, the calendar, to respond to this time for the calendar. The timestamp would be the date and the time that it occurred. And the party, again, would be like whether it was a text message or a phone call or something of that nature. And the description would be kind of the content, what it was.
And what specifically, what type of information can a timeline show? Where's
Basically,
it pulling it from?
it's a chronological, it's pulled excerpt from everything that occurred. It just puts it in a chronological order from the phone download.
On page 2, the titles are missing, but this is the information that you were describing.
Yes.
And can you tell in this timeline whether a call or a text is incoming or outgoing?
Yes.
All right. And does it also indicate the author of that text or call?
Yes, it does.
And we also talked about, on the first page, the deleted column. And what does
Yes.
it mean to delete something in this context?
To physically go into the phone and delete that item.
May I have one moment?
Yes.
And so I just want to draw your attention to State's Exhibits, specifically 127, 128, and 129. There are some blacked out portions of these exhibits.
Okay.
Do you know what that is?
It would be the content of those searches that were made.
And would that be outside of the time frame that we were discussing as relevant to this case?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, in addition to State's Exhibits 126, 127, 128, and 129, which have been admitted, I would also seek to admit State's Exhibit 125.
Ms. Howard?
It's the disc. No objection.
125 made the.
Sir, in addition to your role with the cell phone analysis in this case, did you also make yourself available at the hospital at any point?
Yes.
And when would that have been?
On March 8th and also on March 9th.
And on March 8th, would you have talked to the radiologist, Dr. Cray?
Yes.
And when you spoke to the radiologist, Dr. Cray, did you ever talk about timing of the injury?
Yes.
And what did she say?
Yeah, approach.
Ms. Shane, you may proceed.
If I just may have one moment, Your Honor.
Yeah, take it.
I have no further questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Ms. Howard, will you be doing the cross?
Yes, sir.
My intention at this point is to go about another 20 minutes and then take a break, so I'm going to let you go ahead and start the
Okay,
cross.
I'll say- I'm gonna take
I'm just
another
warning
20.
you that at some point, I'm probably going to shut
Absolutely.
you down just for a quick break for the jury, okay?
You know, I just keep getting up, so it's, you know.
I understand. You may proceed when you're ready.
Thank you. Detective Ventry, I'm going to start where Ms. Sheehan left off. You were stationed at the Cincinnati Children's Hospital on the 8th and the 9th of March. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Okay. And in terms of that, can you tell me how long you were at Cincinnati Children's on March 8th, or what hours you were there from?
I don't know the exact hours that I was there. I know it was pretty much all day.
Pretty much all day?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Yes, I'm sorry.
And I'm a loud talker.
I'm sorry.
You might be a soft talker, so you make sure you keep your
Okay.
voice up. Thank you. And what about on the 9th?
I was there for a significant period of time. I couldn't tell you how long I was there.
Okay. When you were there on the 8th, did you see Lindsay Partin there?
I did not.
You did not.
No.
So do you know what time you left that day?
I do not.
And Detective Ventry, is it fair to say that the extraction that you conducted, right page here, on the 21st of March?
On the 20th.
On the 20th of March, was done multiple days after the phone had been in the custody of the police, would that be fair to say?
Yes.
And you had done that extraction by simply hooking up the phone by a cord to the program?
Yeah, there is depending on which type of phone, there's a specific cord that will go to that phone, hooks up to the machine and on the program, follow the prompts, and then it does the extraction.
So you don't do anything special other than hit some buttons, would that be fair to say?
Yes.
Okay, so that's what the training that you took taught you to do?
Yes.
Okay. And in terms of that, you had done that well after being down at the hospital, is that fair to say?
Yes.
And do you recall, in addition to doing the extraction on the 20th, also doing a search warrant for that particular phone so you could obtain the extraction?
Yes.
And you presented that to, I believe, Judge Powers, is that correct?
I believe so.
I'm going to show you what is previously marked as V as in Victor. Or V as in Ventry, I think is what I called it. Does this appear to be the search warrant affidavit and search warrant that you presented to Judge Powers?
Yes.
And you agree with me that you were the affiant, meaning you swore to the truth of this information?
Yes.
And you did so on the 12th of March, is that correct?
Yes.
And within your affidavit, there's a to wit section on page 1, is that correct?
Yes.
And is it fair to say that you wrote in your affidavit for search warrant that you had received information within the last 24 hours? Sorry, you had received information that the abuse had occurred within the last 24 hours?
Yes, that's in the affidavit.
Okay. And you'd received that from the neurosurgeon?
Objection, Your Honor.
Approach. All right, ladies and gentlemen, the objection has been sustained. We're going to strike the last question about what the neurosurgeon, I believe, would have stated. So you are to disregard that. Ms. Howard, you were proceed.
Just to be clear, Your Honor, the answer prior to that was allowed, is that correct?
I just struck the portion of the question about the neurosurgeon.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
So that you agree that your to wit section is that you received information that the abuse occurred within 24 hours, correct?
Yes.
And you wrote that in your affidavit for search warrant?
Yes, it was put in.
And you did so on March 12th of 2018, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And I'm going to make a guess, Detective, that you've had multiple search warrants that you've been the affiant of?
Yes.
And you're familiar with going in front of the judge and swearing to the truth and veracity of the information contained therein?
Yes.
And as it relates to search warrants for cell phones, would it be fair to say, Detective, that you're aware of other ways that you can obtain information about a cell phone, correct?
I don't understand the question.
You can issue a search warrant, if the judge signs it,
Yes.
directly to the cell phone provider, if you know the person's number. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
So if I know that Jason Weshy has a certain phone number, I could, if I were a detective, seek, if I had probable cause, a search warrant for his cell phone information through his provider, correct?
Yes.
And if you didn't know his provider, is it fair to say that you could probably find that out, correct?
Yes, you could probably find that out.
And if not, you could ask for a search warrant for multiple providers. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Verizon, Sprint, T-Mobile, I'm sure I'm not naming them all, but that's fair to say, correct?
Yes.
And as a detective with the Butler County Sheriff's Department, have you ever, in your 4 years as a detective, had such a search warrant?
I don't believe I have written one to a cell phone provider.
Have you seen one done by the Butler County Sheriff's Department?
I don't recall if I've seen someone who has written one and looked over that. No, I don't.
Are you aware that such a search warrant could obtain pings off the towers?
Yes.
And then you might attempt to triangulate where someone was when those calls or texts came through, correct?
I haven't done that, and I don't have the training to do that.
You haven't?
I haven't triangulated any pings or anything like that.
Are you aware from your training, experience, and education that can be done, correct?
Yes.
And you're aware that it's been done in prior criminal cases?
None that I know. I mean, I'm sure it has. I can't testify to the ones that have been, no.
Is this the first extraction that you had ever done?
No.
Okay. And in doing the extraction, can you tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury of how many pages this extraction report generated?
I cannot.
You can't?
I don't know how many it generated. I do not.
Did you look at the extraction report?
I did. I didn't look to see what the total number of pages.
You're supposed to be below us.
Where do you want it?
I don't know, I'm sure there were.
Do you still have the extraction pages that Ms. Sheehan handed you?
I do not.
I'm going to hand the witness back exhibits 126, 127, 128, and 129. Can you count those pages, please?
17.
17 total pages. And you're saying that you, as the expert extraction person at the Sheriff's Department, cannot say how many pages there are?
I don't know how many pages are to the instruction. No.
Okay, I'm gonna mark, I think I'm up to, I think I'm up to,
These boxes in exhibit.
they will be in a second. Robert. I'm going to hand you what I've marked as RR. Do you recognize that document?
It's part of the extraction report.
Okay. It's pages 1 through 5 of the extraction report, correct?
Yes.
And there are a total of 33,194 pages, correct?
I don't see where you're saying the amount of pages on here.
Well, you identified this disc, which was 125, and it had your initials on it, and you said you reviewed it all, correct?
I reviewed that was a download, yes.
The entirety of the download.
I reviewed it was a download.
And you're telling me that it didn't comprise of 33,174 pages?
I didn't look to see how many pages it.
Did you look at any of them other than the 17 pages that you have there?
Yes, after the initial extraction.
How many of the 33,000 pages did you look at?
I couldn't say for sure.
Did you do that independently, or were you directed to specific pages
During the extraction or during the review?
during the review?
During the review, I was shown specific pages.
And who were you shown specific pages from?
The prosecutors.
So you haven't actually, you just extracted 33,000 pages, you didn't look at it?
Not the whole entire report.
And is it
After the-
contained, you didn't look at the whole entire report?
After the extraction, we looked at the report for the dates that were in question.
Okay, so are you saying that you reviewed all of the dates contained in those pages on this disc that were for those dates?
I don't understand the question.
Well, look at page 2 of the extraction report. Do you see that?
Yes.
Where it says contents? It's right in the middle of the page. Do you see that?
I'm looking. Contacts?
Contents. CONTENTS. Would it help if I...
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I was looking at it in a different spot. Yes, I see what you're saying, yes.
Okay. And it itemizes each of the sections of the extraction report, correct?
Yes?
For instance, it says Bluetooth devices first, correct?
Yes?
It says there are 569 Bluetooth devices included, correct?
Yes?
And that 14 have been deleted, correct?
Yes?
Calendar. It says there were 926 entries on that, correct?
Yes?
42 were deleted, correct?
Yes?
Call log. 4,813 call logs with 40 deleted, correct?
Yes?
Chats. 705 with 119 deleted, correct?
Yes?
iMessage 7 with 2 deleted, correct?
Yes?
iMessage 1 with 2 deleted.
Yes?
iMessage plus 1 deleted.
Yes?
Do you believe that page 2 is a true and accurate depiction of the extraction report? I will mark this as double S.
Mark one specifically as double S himself.
This particular box, I'm going to go SS1. I'll put them in order in just a second. Just for identification purposes, I took out 5 pages from that. I'll mark for identification as SS1A. They're not stapled together. Can you compare SS1A with double R that I handed you? Those appear to be the same.
Yes.
And what were the other pages you had from the state's exhibits? I'll take SS1A back because it's not clipped together.
Okay.
Placing SS1A back in box 1, which I marked as SS1.
I'm sorry, what was your question again?
The other pages that the prosecutor has marked as state's exhibits, so they're going to be the red stickers off to your right, so I'll take this off your hand just so it's not confusing to you. She's given you page 1, correct?
Yes.
And she marked that as state's exhibit 126, correct?
Yes,
No doubt that page 1 is identical to page 1 on RR, correct?
I would have.
Sure.
I would like to compare them before I say
Absolutely.
it. Yes,
Okay. And your next one was 127. It appears that 127 begins on page 94, correct?
correct.
And it goes 94 to page 98, correct? Is that correct, sir?
I'm looking. Yes,
I'm going to number this SS1B. Taken from box SS1. Did I leave that up here with you? Or did I take it?
did you leave which one with me?
Page 94 to,
Yes.
and that's exhibit 127?
Yes,
Okay. Handing you SS1B. Does that appear to be the same as 127?
yes,
And I'm going to approach you with what I've marked as exhibit BB as in boy, boy. Detective Ventry, does BB as in boy appear to match what the prosecutor previously marked as 127? That you have identified also as identical to SS1B?
What was the question?
Does BB appear to be identical to 127, which you said was identical to SS1B?
There's additional pages.
There's additional pages, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And so if I handed you what has numbers on the bottom of it is 99 to 105, would that make it complete?
Would make which one complete?
They'd be sequentially continuing on in the phone dump.
On the one that was given to me by the
Correct.
prosecutor's office, yes.
So you have looked past and looked continued on, correct? Have you not?
What's your question? I don't-
Well, I'm just trying to figure out why we got 17 pages when your extraction, this disc, contains 33,174 pages. Correct?
I still don't know the question.
You didn't look at every page, did you?
Every page of the 3,300
Absolutely.
extraction, I scroll through, I can't tell you about every single page, no.
But-
And the page numbers and everything on the bottom of what's on the computer, I don't print out copies of it. I couldn't tell you what the page number is on the bottom of every page either, no.
But you'd agree with me that the entirety of the phone extraction dump is 33,174 pages, correct?
That's what you're
I
telling
mean,
me.
you're not trying to play coy, are you?
That's what you're telling me, I haven't seen that, yes.
Okay. So you haven't looked all the way to the end of the disc? Do we
No.
have, I don't have a disc attachment to my computer. I'd love to put it in. Sure.
$128, what was admitted?
Yes.
This hour on
Yes.
phone line goes about 10 more minutes.
Okay.
That's what I was thinking.
Would this be a good time for a break? If not,
Yeah, that's fine. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, it's 2:36. I was going to let you go to about 2:45, and while we're working on getting all this set up, let's go ahead and take our break now. 15 minutes, so be back out in the lobby about 10 till 3, and we'll resume the cross at that point. Please leave your notepads, please remember your admonitions, and we'll see you back in 15. Okay?
Off the record, Joe.